So today we have a very historic figure on our interview, and he's Mariano Díaz Campos, and he's been in tango, if I'm not wrong, for 35 years now. So
Yes.
that's a that's what I meant by historic. We have a very historic figure, I would say. And he's also a teacher, a tango teacher, and I'm going to asking him about some of these historical topics and about his teaching career as well. So welcome, Mariano. Can I first ask who are you?
Yeah, my name is Mariano Díaz Campos. I've been born in Argentina in 1974, but I grew up in the Netherlands. Uh, I was 3 years when the whole family came to the Netherlands. And my mother started tango in the Netherlands. It's pioneer, it's called, I think. Uh, Performance and teaching in the Netherlands and Belgium, and later on also in whole Europe. She toured with my father. And then I became that's the same teacher, tango teacher. Yes, that's my background. So when we came to the Netherlands, my mother didn't have really the idea of doing tango in the Netherlands because she learned tango from my grandparents. My grandfather had a milonga in the village where she came from, in the middle of the Pampas, called Tapalque. And my grand aunt had a milonga in Buenos Aires, in the city center. It was in the 40s, the Época de Oro, the golden age of the tango, the golden decade, where my grandfather always received musicians and dancers in his milonga from Buenos Aires who were touring, like Pepito Avellaneda, of I think he's called Roberto Grassi, very famous figures in those times. And my mother learned tango from my grandparents, dancing with my grandfather and my uncle, which is her brother. And so she had this tango idea in her head. And when we came to the Netherlands, it was not the first thing she thought to do. She joined a Latin American theater group, all refugees, because we were also political refugees. And she danced tango with a man from Uruguay, Gustavo Arias, a very good tango dancer, who also learned tango from his parents. And in one of those scenes, they danced tango. And I was very small. It was 1982. I was 8, I think, something like that, 8 or 7. And I was a little bit surprised because I didn't knew that my mother had that background, because we listen, like refugees listen always to music from their country, their roots, so tango, folklore, Mercedes Sosa. My mother liked Pugliese, but there was also D'Arienzo in house, and all the other tango music. It was like weird because I was more in the Michael Jackson phase at those time. And then she danced with this man, Gustavo Arias. And the thing happens that Dutch public came towards her and said, "What are you dancing?" She said, "Yeah, tango." She didn't say Argentine tango, she said tango, because for her, there is not other tango than Argentine tango, so tango. But she never knew there was a different form of tango. There's this ballroom tango, it's like with his head, like this, in Europe and in the States. So people asked her, no, that is a different dance. Your dance is different than our tango. Why you call it tango? Well, then this is Argentine tango. And there was a little bit of discussion about that. But anyway, she discovered that people were interested in learning this new form. And then she contributed to the revival of tango in the Netherlands and Europe, actually, because the strange thing happened that in Paris and Berlin and other big cities started the tango during the revival of tango in the 80s. But in Amsterdam also, where she started to give classes. And that's the story, because I saw it happen. And we were actually, the idea was going back to Argentina. But then my parents decided, you know what? We can stay and teach the Dutch and the Belgians, because also people from Belgium and Germany came. My parents went also to Germany and Belgium and other places, also in France, to teach. And this interest was incredible big. And at first she thought it's a fashion for a summer fashion for the Dutch. After this year, people will forget tango and life goes on. But this fashion is still going on until 2021. And it's bigger and bigger and bigger. So yeah, and that's what happened in those times. Yeah.
I love these pioneer stories.
Yeah, some crazy things happened, because she was invited to go everywhere to dance and perform with the orchestras of Karel Krajinov and Sexteto Kanjingi. But also later on, she was invited with my father when my father started to dance tango, because he comes from Chile originally, but he learned from my mother. And then maestros came, Antonio Todaro, Pepito Avellaneda, invited by my parents. And at one moment, she got a phone call from Buenos Aires, from the manager of the Osvaldo Pugliese orchestra. And they were asked to perform with the orchestra during the tour in Europe. And they were the solo dance couple of the Osvaldo Pugliese orchestra. So that's why we got to know Osvaldo Pugliese personally, and Lidia Pugliese. And every time we go to Buenos Aires, me and my wife, and sometimes when I'm with my mother, we visit Lidia Pugliese often. Yes, it's it's a big connection, old connection from more than 30 years, 35 years, something like that.
Did you personally get to know Osvaldo? You know, you were a child, of course, but did you?
Yeah, we often went to his house. We lunched with him. I have seen the orchestras, I think, like 7 or 8 times live. Also with Adrian Guia, who is a singer who is deceased, and I think in the 90s. Cordoba, the singer Abel Cordoba, I've met him, and we know the musicians from the orchestra. And always when I see Color Tango, I go to them and greet them, and they know who I am, who are my parents is, and they say, "Yeah, greet your mother and your father." And and Osvaldo Pugliese was very fond of my father, because Osvaldo Pugliese was a communist, and my father was a factory worker and a union leader. And when he was young, that's why we had to go away from Argentina. That's his political views and stuff like that were very common with Pugliese, and they always played truco. Truco, it's like a card play, like poker, in the theater during the pause. The only thing Osvaldo Pugliese wanted to do is to play truco with my father, because my father is from a very a poor neighborhood, and because you have to lie when you play trucos. So he liked it very much.
I think that's a tango about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was actually a very special time, the beginning of tango, because it was very a tough time for my parents, who didn't have a good education, because they had to work when they were very young, to teach in Dutch and sometimes in Spanish in other places, and somebody had to translate it when they were in Germany. or in France, and to learn people the real tango, because my mother had the idea that that the tango danced by by my grandparents, her mother and father, with the embracement and the ronda and with tandas and cortinas, was a common dance. And in the beginning, the fashion was that when maestros came to Europe, they taught mostly advanced steps, show steps with ganchos and many giros and stuff like that, even sentadas, but they were show steps. And my mother was interested in giving tango de salon, like the milongueros danced, with the embracement and just walking, fancy stuff. And when I started to dance tango, it began when all those famous people came to our house in Amsterdam. They danced in the living room with my sister sometimes, and she was small. She was like 6 or 7. They could lift her up, make a sentada, and do stuff like that. And I was a little bit jealous because she got all the attention. And then I started to dance some steps. I was 12, I think, 11 or 12. And but I left it a little bit because I didn't think it was so very important to me to go fully in the tango until I was 16, and my father asked me to DJ in his milonga in Amsterdam. And he prepared this cassette with tandas and cortinas. The cortina was a famous song of a pop singer, Grace Jones, I think, which was actually libre tango, but formed into a pop song. And it was like 30 seconds, maybe 1 minute as a cortina. And so I had like boxes like this, many boxes of tango, tandas, and cortinas. And he said, you just have to put only the cassette in and just wait until it's over, then another one. And so he could dance freely without thinking about DJing. And of course, I got bored. First, I had my Walkman on, and then I knew all the music of the tangos, of the orchestras. And then I mixed the two Calot songs from cassette B with the two Calot songs from cassette F with my Walkman. So I just tried to DJ and stick the songs who were similar to each other. And so I started DJing with my Walkman. And but anyhow, when I was looking down from my DJ booth in the Milonga, all of those people dancing, all those Dutch people dancing, of course I got bored. And I thought, well, you know what? I put a D'Arienzo cassette and I go down. And then I start to dance with the teachers of the dance school of my parents. And because I knew them, the female teachers of the dance school. And so I started to dance tango more profoundly than before, with more things, with more media lunas, with more walking, with more. And I was a little bold because I was young and I thought it's only for fun. And then my parents said, you know what, you have to ask somebody from your own age to do classes. And then I asked a girl from my class, I was 17, to do some classes with my parents. And it was this girl, Gwenelle Shan. She was French, Chinese, Dutch, a very nice mix, because she was very interested in other cultures, and she was an artist and she wanted to be an artist. She was very artistic, artistic type. So because I was very shy, when you were so young, you are very shy, and I was like, I don't dare to ask somebody, but I felt with her, oh, okay. She could say yes, and she said yes. And so I started the first classes with her at what was called the Academia de Tango, still exists in Amsterdam, Academia de Tango Amsterdam, with my first classes, real first classes, not in the living room, but real, yes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It was a very new experience. I was 17. Yeah.
So maybe I don't think it's clear enough yet, like how you like this trajectory of starting to dance, how that happened.
Mhm.
Because you, like as a child, you kind of started to dance in the living room.
Yeah, because tango was every day in our house, because my parents practiced their tango, their choreography for the orchestra of Pugliese and other things in the living room. And then they said, put out the TV and go to your bedroom. And it was like every day tango. And was so much tango. And I looked to them. I watched sometimes. I sit in the corner and watch them dance and perform and do their stuff, prepare the classes. And sometimes my parents ask me, "Why don't you dance with your mother and do some steps?" And they try to learn me the ocho backwards, the ocho forwards, and the sandwich with the gancho and stuff like that. Media lunas, oof, everything. And also when Antonio Todaro was at our place, it's a very famous maestro, the teacher of the Soto brothers, Miguel Angel Soto and Milena Plebs, the teacher of Gustavo Naveira and the other Pablo Veron. He was an older man who came to our house in 1986 or 87, and he was very formal dressed, and he went also with suit and tie to the classes and teach, and it was very like a very severe uh, uh, maestro, which you had to do everything what he said. But the funny thing is that this man, Todaro, had like tons, hundreds and hundreds of steps in his head, also for the ladies, because he could dance like a woman. Antonio Todaro performed with Virulazo in the 40s as two men together, and they could change roles. So he could do the lady steps better than many ladies. And he was also, I think, the inventor of tango al revés. He was a very tango fantasia dancer. It's like a style that came before show tango. Um, but everything what is show tango came from tango fantasia, and he had so many steps in his head. He wanted to teach me, and he said to my father, "You sent me to Argentina. Let him live like 1 year at my place, and I will make him a star." And I was like, "Nah, I don't think I don't think it's going to be a good idea to be a tango teacher and performer." And so I didn't accept his his idea to do that. But he gave me his dancing shoes as a gift, because I was dancing on sneakers, like Adidas sneakers. And he said, a real tanguero has a suit, uh, elegant trousers, and shoes to dance, and not uh, and not sneakers and jeans. So he gave me his shoes. But the funny thing is that Antonio taught a show style in Europe, because he toured the whole Europe, especially Germany, Belgium, and the Netherlands. But when he danced in the milongas, because he danced a lot of time in the milongas, he danced tango de salon, and he advised my parents to teach tango de salon, this tango like dance like the milongueros, but actually in a very refined, elegant style, more like Like they dance in Villa Urquiza, Mataderos, the outskirts of the city of Buenos Aires. And so it was not uh, really serious for me until I asked this girl when I was 17, and it changed in my head. And then said, yeah, I could do something with this. And after a couple of years, like 2 or 3 years, I did my first performance, my first show, and then I became completely enthusiastically for dancing tango. It became very extreme for me. I just wanted to hear more tango music and learn from all those orchestras. I wanted to know about all the music and dancers of the old times, of the new times. I was completely amazed about Miguel Angel Soto and Milena Plebs and their show Tango por Dos. And then when I was 21, my father asked me to teach tango in their dance school in Amsterdam because he needed real men giving tango classes. Because I was like standing like this, like you had to stand for a show. When I went dancing for fun, for my hobby, I was standing good. He says, "Yeah, you're standing very good. You're standing straight, very grounded. I need you to teach." And I was 21, and I was like, "Really? Me teach? Teach older people?" Because the most of the people were older than me. I was the youngest, I think, the youngest dancer in the Netherlands, and certainly the youngest teacher at that time. That was in 1995, and I was 21. And so I taught for many years in Amsterdam until 2011. Yes, and later on, so many things came by because I started to tour also later on. And the tango craze started in 2001, 2002 in the Netherlands. More and more, especially with the wedding of this Argentinian girl, Maxima, with Prince Willem Alexander of the Oranje-Nassau Dutch royal family. And I performed in Palace Noordeinde at their wedding in 2002 February, and that was like an iconic time. I even did it 2 times, also in the Parliament in The Hague, with all those ministers of cabinet and the whole royal family standing there. Juan Tajes singing, and I don't remember the musicians anymore. It was an incredible time. Hernandez, I think. It was an incredible time to be there at that moment when it exploded completely with this wedding with the Argentinian girl of the prince. And then now they are queen and king of the Netherlands. So the tango was already in the Netherlands at that moment, and in Belgium and Germany, but it became incredible, known by the whole of the Dutch with this wedding. Yes.
So before we continue about those years, I still have some questions about the past before that. So if I conclude, in a way, you were a bit rebellious as a child, like you didn't want to conform to your parents in a way, or maybe you were too young to appreciate tango. Like I hear something like that in your story.
Well, you have these things that youngsters have, and even and of course when you're a little bit teenage, you think, oh, okay, my parents are starting a hobby. But then it became real and realistic, and then it became important, and then something else happened to me when I was 14, 15. I got interested in the roots of 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 my family. I wanted to know why did we come to the Netherlands and why the those harsh time we had, because my father was imprisoned 1 year in Argentina because of his political view, and many of his friends didn't survive. So many things happened to me, and then at the my with my parents reaching out to tango, it became something very interesting for me to learn about my roots,
Ah,
because it was not not only that I was Argentinian, but that my and part of my mother, that we were a really tango family, because my grandfather was completely obsessed with tango, and he knew so many important people. Also, my grand aunt had a milonga in Constitución. It's a neighborhood in Buenos Aires. Was a very good friend of Tita Merello. Tita Merello is a very famous actress and singer of tangos in those time, 40s, 50s. So I was like obsessed, completely obsessed to know about that. So it changed in one. First, I was too young to comprehend, but then it became, it was bizarre. It was, I wanted only to know about tango, 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 and it was very nerdy actually for me. And my friends didn't understand, because it was like a house music at that time, and I was only at the moment I was only doing tango. And the strange thing is that I uh, in the tango scene, all the other people were older than me. They were in the 20s, 30. They were young, but I was 17. I was 18. I was very young.
they were like old people to you.
For me, when you're a teen, those people were old. And then uh, later on, I discovered many other youngsters, but then I was 24, 25, 26. I met other people, and so I met my current wife at a milonga in the Academia de Tango in Amsterdam. And the thing is, I was 26, she was 21. I asked her to dance in a milonga. And the first thing she said, oh, this is Francini playing violin. Oh, this is Pontier playing piano. Oh, this is the orchestra of Anibal Troilo. And oh yeah, this is Orlando Gogni on the piano when with Troilo. She said, how do you know all those? First, how do you know all those orchestras when you were 21? And second, how do you know all the musicians? Because that far, being having the knowledge of those orchestra is very special. She said, well, I was 17 and I studied in the Rotterdam Conservatory in the tango sections. And there is tango section in Rotterdam where you can learn to play tango, and you are taught by professionals. Beethoven, for instance, who played with Piazzolla, and Leo Vervelde was part of the Sexteto Canjenge, Martijn van der Linden, and she got classes from Martijn van der Linden, and she knew Pugliese, she knew, and I was like, whoa, this is a special connection, because I like tango, I'm young, and you like tango, and you're young, so it was our common ground to be together. It was yeah, very special for me. And then later on came young people to dance, and yeah, of course, I got older, and many other people from the 20s mostly started to dance tango. It was very special too, because I thought, oh my God, if everybody gets old, the tango will vanish. But no, now there are marathons and encuentros and stuff like that, and I see the photos. And sometimes I go to a marathon, and I see younger people dance, and they're interested and they know everything about orchestras and stuff like that. I said, whoa, that's just very special. And I'm very glad that it happened like that. The tango had this place in Europe. I'm very happy about that.
You've definitely seen a lot of growth in all those years.
Yes, many changes, many stuff, and well, we are touring in Europe. We went to Belgium, Germany, teach in Italy. We taught in Spain and stuff like that. And you see that there are many cultures and many difference in cultures and how they adapt to authority or not in tango, and how they see tango. But um, there's a common feeling of humanity, which we express the same through dance, a common feeling of connection with the rest of the world, without speaking the language. And the only language we have is, yeah, the tango dance, and that's very beautiful. And now you find tango in Asia, in Vietnam, or in India. I didn't thought that it could happen. And a couple of years ago, 10 or 15 years, I met even a Persian guy, and I taught him tango. And he said that he had in Tehran a place where he sometimes danced with his wife and a couple of other people tango in his house, his own little tango paradise, and it is very special. Yes, yes, I'm very happy about that, because there is a moment in tango history in the 50s and the 50s, 60s, and 70s, mostly the 60s and 70s, where tango was gone. Tango disappeared from Argentina. There were a few people dancing tango, and when we came for the first time uh, after our time as a refugee, we came back to Argentina. It was in 1987. There were less than 10 milongas in the city, and people said, "You're crazy. You have to go to Rio de Janeiro to be at the beach, then going to Buenos Aires and learn tango, because it's gone." And even taxi drivers said, "Strange that you want to learn tango, because it's a culture it's vanished." But the revival started, and it's back again. I think it's going to stay also. I think even with this pandemic, it's going to stay in a form. Yes. So I'm very happy about that.
So I was thinking, like, you were happy at some point that there were also younger people in tango.
Yeah.
But in a country like the Netherlands, I'm actually mostly seeing somewhat older people, not only, but and I think in Argentina, most of the kind of dance milongas that I like tend to also attract an older audience and not the younger people. So do you see a future in that, or?
Yes. I think something strange happened, because at the moment that the tango disappeared in Argentina, there is a whole generation, maybe two, or well, one, uh, who didn't dance tango. That was the 60s or 70s, because for instance, when my mother became a teenager, she stopped dancing tango. She went dancing rock and roll, and then my father too, and it was like the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, and so on and so on. And then in the Netherlands, they reached out to the roots again. But their generation is the generation of the 60s. And the friends of my parents, their own age, they're like now 70, never danced tango. And they don't have this connection with tango. So there is a gap. It happened also with the Netherlands, I think. I'm not an anthropologist, but let me explain a little bit. The first dancers in the 80s, we started to dance tango in the Netherlands, where people from the alternative scene, like krakers, squatters,
Yeah.
a little bit in that direction. Karel Krajnov was in his 20s. The teachers who taught in the dance school of my parents were also in the 20s and the 30s. They were young. But of course, when time passes by, they get older. And then they are now in the 50 or 60. Um, so the thing that happened in the 90s and 2000 is that when people get older, they attract more people from their own age. And then the change happened, I think, 20 years ago, when there were the first young teachers who were younger than me. They were like 19, 20, 21, 22, who came to teach in Europe, and mostly in Eastern Europe, where the wall fell and people started to have a cultural movement, and also tango. And the younger people especially who have a background of music or dance, they started to dance tango. So that you have a difference of age. In the Netherlands, they're like more older, and scarcely some of them are young, because when you're interested at a young age in world music, you dance tango. And in Eastern Europe, you have a younger public, because of this strange way of history, where the history takes you in a certain way. And many of my students are like 40, 50, 60, and but very eager to dance. And sometimes there is sometimes a little bit misunderstanding in tango dance, because the first time you see tango, you see actually show tango. You understand, Lucas?
Yeah.
Show tango on television, and many teachers, I also perform, and people say, "Oh, I want to learn that." And I said, "Yeah, but we teach tango de salon, so you're learning to dance in a ronda with not only your partner, but with 50 or maybe 80 other people in one room." And and that's a funny thing to comprehend as a student. So okay, but I want to do that. I said, well, but if you're really serious, you have to have private classes and not group classes, because we teach only the way you dance in a group, in a ronda, with everything, with cabeceo and la mirada, cabeceo and tandas and cortinas, everything which is very common in a milonga. So people get connected with tango, seeing show tango. And actually, when you speak with milongueros, you say, well, I have maybe 4 or 5 special steps, not 20 or 30. And the thing is that in Europe, every time you go to a class, you learn a new step, and then you have a repertoire of like 30 or 40 steps with all of kind of ganchos and stuff like that. But it's a way that is sinking in a little bit, and more in the tango scene in Europe, that the nicest way to dance, where everybody is comfortable and everyone can respect each other, is the way of dancing tango salon, like the milongueros. Because a term is called jogging high.
Yes.
In English, yes. When you run a lot, you get a little bit high. When you do many steps, you can get that. That is one way. You have also a sort of being high, dopamine and serotonin in your head, when you do meditation and being in the here and now during dance, meditative dance, without thinking about steps, only your way to lead and follow, you get also a sort of highness, being high. It's a strange word to say in the Netherlands, to be high, but it's some little hormones in your head or from your uh, like serotonin, dopamine, and oxytocin, because you're doing stuff with in embracement with somebody else, and you're being in an event. It's also gives you oxytocin. It's a very special and maybe a different path to take. So not doing all those many steps. I once, when I was young, and when you're young, you want to rebel, you want to do stuff, you want to do ganchos, media lunas, and jumps. I did that at the milonga of my parents, and my father came from the side and took me, grabbed me by my shirt, and dragged me off the milonga of the dance place, leaving my partner completely surprised behind. And he said, "If you want to to perform, I will tell everybody to give you space, then you can do performance. But when you're dancing with all those people, you're not doing a show. You're doing a show when I announce you and the whole floor is empty."
That's
So
great.
what? Yeah, that's a very strong and harsh way to learn, but you learn. You're a puppy. Yeah, when I was young, I was a puppy. I wanted to do everything. I saw those shows and I wanted to do everything. But I said, no, no, no. Your time's coming. You're gonna be. You can do your show dance, but when you're in the milonga, you respect everybody, but also in my place, your parents. Yes, that's very important. And you can see it when my father dances. He never do a gancho, never, or almost never. But no. But when he stopped dancing now, but when he did his performance, he did something else. And it's very typical cultural thing of the milongas in Buenos Aires, that friends perform a piece for friends when they got married, when somebody gets his bachelor degree, when somebody opens a business, or Boca Juniors is champion, or somebody club is champion, or somebody gets a baby, a newborn. Friends tend to do a performance for their friends. It's a more cultural thing, and that's why when you see a performance in Argentina, people tend to applaud a fancy thing, and it's a little bit bling bling in dance, a fancy thing. But you know that that fancy thing, you will never see them doing when they dance with a group together in a normal milonga, only at that moment. And the strange thing is that they probably can do it only with their partner and not with somebody else.
But this seems to be like a distinction that people are not. A lot of people in Europe are not conscious of, especially of the like not this elite who goes to these marathons and encuentros, even though they might also not be also always as aware as they should be. But I feel like especially these people who come to your lessons and say, "Yeah, I want to be like that person on television," and then yeah, you end up as a dancer. Sometimes in local milongas, you end up in risky situations because some people don't know what like the social rules should be. That they're not seem to be not so aware of that it's a social dance that you also
Yeah.
do with the people around you, not just your
Yeah.
partner. So
And you know what, Lucas? In the 40s, the owner of a milonga was very concerned that the people of his milonga could have a good time. And when there is one dancer who's doing strange things, firuletes, mucho firuletes, they had bouncers,
okay,
big guys, and they took you out. And I've heard stories about that, many. Of course, you can't do that now You try to teach them as I try to teach them. So you can't do this. You have to go always in the dance direction, dancing, because in the beginning, many teachers from Argentina, many maestros, they teach you to dance like this because they are, mostly of them were also show dancers. You dance like this on the stage because the stage is like this, and then behind you is the orchestra. And so people learn tango doing this crisscross, crisscross. And my parents started to teach in the ronda. It was the first time. And when those two groups mixed, it was hell, because there was a group in Amsterdam or in the Netherlands who danced show style, and a group who danced tango de salon. And it was a very, very crazy time, because my father was like, oh no, they are like completely chaos on the milonga, because you can't say no to people. You don't come because you're dancing strange, like crisscross and ganchos and stuff like that. But sometimes my father grabbed the microphone and said, guys, we have to dance with a little bit of respect for each other and stuff like that. But now I think it's more, I don't know every place now in the Netherlands, but I think there's more people respecting each other in the milongas. I've seen that in Germany also a lot. Ronda, tandas, cortinas. Very happy about that. Very, because maybe you're experiencing the tango scene from now, but where I came from, it was completely different. There weren't a lot of information, and people didn't have YouTube to see how people danced in Argentina. And if you don't go to Buenos Aires, you don't know. You don't know that Mariano and Cosima, my wife, saying you have to dance in the ronda, and you have cortinas, and you have to respect, you have to be in embracement and stuff like that. They don't see it. They didn't see it in those times, but now you can see it.
But there were teachers too, right, back then, right? I mean, it was
Yes.
also, didn't
Most
they
of the
say?
teachers, no. Argentinian maestros didn't say how they expect you.
Yeah.
That you also to improvise. They expect you that you improvise.
It's like lost in translation. Like they come from a culture
Actually, yes.
where it's so normal that you follow certain unwritten rules that they didn't even realize that they had to actually export that in the right way. That's very interesting.
Yes, and actually many students come to me and say, well, I went to a teacher in Buenos Aires and they say different things than the other teacher in Buenos Aires, and then I don't know which to choose. I said, you choose from your heart what you like, because the thing is that every teacher is very, very proud of his own style. So he teaches in his own style, and probably many didn't teach how to lead and follow just to copy the sequences of another maestro. So they had to think about their own languages in between their partners to teach. But it's of course different than the other one, and the other one, and the other one. So you have many, many, many styles doing the same. So what you get is that when one teacher says, no, you have to do it like this, and the other one says, no, you look at it like otherwise, differently, you have to think for yourself, what is the most practical thing to do? And some teachers, they teach you a sequence in a class. Some still do. It's a little bit changed now, but some still do. That is from A to Z, completely finished. And when you were practicing in their class, they say, no, you have to finish it. And I said, but if I want to improvise, no, you have to finish it. So you're not taught to improvise, but they expect you to do it on your own, to teach it, to learn it from your own, to learn yourself to improvise. Improvisation is not taught a lot. And so we started that when we started our own dance school in Amsterdam, to teach our students to improvise the cross step, which is very a thing in Europe, where when the lady, the follower, expects to do a cross steps, she does it without being led, because she thinks it's the number 5. It's the number 5. I said, yeah, the number 5 doesn't exist actually when you improvise. The cross is leaded and not implemented by yourself. And that it's also with the leaders. They say to a lady, well, I learned in class number 4, advanced 1, that you have to do here, you have to do an ocho backwards. Why don't you do it? And then the lady says, you have to lead it.
Yes.
So those discussions come. It's very common here, but why it's not there in Argentina? Why do people just improvise, do that from their own? I started to improvise myself when I was DJing at the milonga of my parents, because I didn't do the common courses which my parents taught in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam. I just learned tango fooling around on the living room, trying steps and stuff like that. So I made up my steps, and then I learned to lead it. And then I was dancing in the milongas with my parents before I took classes, just improvising. So this thing of improvising is in my head, it's in my body. I always do that. And when I started to take classes, real classes, when I was 21, 22 with maestros, they always said to me, no, Mariano, my step is like this and this and this, and you have to finish it. But when you're in a packed full class with so many people in these festivals from early on, I said, but I don't have space, but still you have to finish. I said, nah, I do it my own way. I just finish it without bumping to another couple. So I cultivated together with Cosima, because Cosima is a physiotherapist and men's therapist. She knows Cesar, Alexander technique, and she thought about a way to learn people how to improvise and how to lead and follow. That every element of your dance, of your sequence, is a part, is a particle, and you have the building stones. We learn them, the building stones, to make your own dance. We teach them a way to start without starting a basic step or finishing a sequence. We don't even do that, because we say, after this, you can improvise your own repertoire. Don't finish at 6, 7, 8, because maybe you don't have space. Maybe you have to stop at 6 and do something else and stuff like that. So we try to learn the people how to dance, improvise. It was like a new thing in Amsterdam, when we try to figure out a new way how to teach people. And so I don't say sequences are bad, because you need an automatic pilot to have tools to improvise, but you have to be aware that you have the possibility to change direction, or stop, or do something else at every moment. We also,
because of the social dance,
because of
and that
social
was
dance,
not taught enough in the past.
no, because
And maybe not
you don't
still
have,
not so much in some places, but
no, some teachers expect you to do it yourself, to figure it out yourself. But I learned that the culture in Europe is different, because they really want to know if you're allowed to do that, or if it's possible to do that. And Argentinians, they don't even think if it's allowed. They do it. They just do it, and it is possible, and it is very nice for them to figure out their own steps, their own, because when you have building stones, you're doing your own step, because everyone is different and have different backgrounds. Also, you're taught in dance schools to dance on the 1 and the 3 of a compass. One step and and but when you see milonguero dance, they sometimes make a pause. They totally ignore sometimes a compass or a tick in the music, or they completely ignore the compass at the melody line. They make a pause because the embracement at that moment with the lady is more important than doing a step. So we learn them also to make pauses in the tango, and I learned that the hard way, uh, because when it's very full in the milonga, sometimes you have to stop or make a sandwich or make a planeo or make just nothing, just holding somebody. And I learned from milongueros, they said, nothing is more important than holding a lady in your arms in a very still motion. And although you don't see us dance, we are dancing in our bodies. And that's a very special thing which I learned in our travels towards Buenos Aires. So many different little things that people don't see or don't feel it when they are learning tango in Europe. But I see many people doing that more and more and more. It is not really breaking the rules, because the rule you have like a matrix where you dance in, your tango salon, abrazo, and stuff like that. But they try to feel and to sense how the music talks to you through your body, and then you can follow your own course during the dance with your partner, which maybe you don't know the name of still, or it's totally stranger for you. Also as a follower. Yes. I talk too much?
No, I'm just wondering, there's so many things I want to talk about, and the time is always limited. So I was just multitasking a bit, trying to think of what I want to discuss with the remaining time. Because I think a lot of people are very interested as well in these stories from the old days about all the people you met.
Yeah.
And there are several things we could discuss, but maybe let's finish with that. Maybe if you have something else to tell, or maybe in as an extension of what you just said about the way they danced or still dance, those who are alive, that people outside of Argentina usually don't have, or some people in Argentina even don't have. So yeah, maybe something like that. That's my request.
Well, you asked me so many things.
Yeah. It's
I will
confusing.
tell
Sorry.
you something very interesting. Two things. First, when we first came back to Argentina after our banishment, my parents were already tango teachers. We went to milongas, and I was young, and I saw all those older people dancing the packed full. I think it was Sunderland. I don't know. Maybe you've seen Rumbo and Villorquiza, packed full of, but in a sports hall, I think, basketball hall, and we're dancing. But the thing is, what I noticed is that when the music became melodic, is the whole group as if they had communications by them, like alien communication.
Yeah,
They
some kind of
all
brain
went
connection, something like that.
slow. Yeah, they danced slower. It was like completely off beat, because I know 1 and 3 and 1. You have to step on every one.
Yeah, and that's not what the music is saying. No.
It's like, and I learned from, and they also came to us and to talk with us, because we came with a group of German and Dutch and Belgian tourists, the first tango vacation ever.
Cool.
And they were like total enthusiastic what you're doing here. Yeah, we are visiting Buenos Aires. with tango dancers. Are they tango dancers? They're too tall. Yes, they dance tango, and they were like, "Oh my God, we have to dance in the ronda and so like that." And they try to, and all those milongueros try to teach you a step. I know this is a step. I thought about it in the 40s, and they even in the corridors or in the toilets, they wanted to learn you tango steps. And it was like the feeling, because they were older, that this was maybe the last time they could bring transfer their heritage to other people who were interested, because at that time Argentinians weren't interested in tango. Maybe a
What a
couple.
total contrast with what
Completely,
came next. Yeah.
because they came, yeah, the total contrast. And the group of Dutch and German and Belgian we had were young, were 20s and 30s, and we're like, wow, so young, dancing tango. And even we were at the hotel, and the whole city knew where the hotel was. So sometimes they were waiting until the Dutch and the tourists, the Germans, woke up after the milonga to teach our steps. Even Petrolio, a very famous dancer who invented the media luna, and I think also the boleo. Yeah, he invented the boleo. Was there sitting at the patio waiting until we got up, drinking mate with the owner of the hotel, and then he tried to do steps with the Dutch ladies, to do steps, because I think he was very old. I think he was feeling that his time was running out, and that it was the last moment uh, to keep this heritage alive. All those thousands of steps of those old milongueros, incredible, and they were so happy to see us. We went to their houses. Sometimes they sung tangos for us. They started to sing tango mid on the streets in the night, and we always came 5 or 6 or 7 o'clock when the light came out, and they said, well, go get the media luna. And the thing is, we asked them, how did you do that in the old days when you went dancing every night? They said, yes, we went dancing every night at 6 o'clock. I got a cafe cortado on the media luna, and then I went to work. And even the young people with us, with the group, thought, how do you manage? And what did you do? Construction worker, stuff like that. It was incredible how much energy these people have. And I think dancing gives you energy a lot. And later on, when we went to the milongas, they announced it also. And here is the group from the Netherlands. And we went to a special table, and then sitting there, people came by and even thanking the people of us of bringing a new blood in the tango. And later on, other young people from Argentina started to dance tango. There were a few. There were like the Soto brothers, Milena Plebs. Later came Geraldine, Gabriel Misset. They are my age. Javier Rodriguez. But it was very, very rare to see young people dance at that time. Now there's a bit more. But the thing is, we may not forget that the tango is not, because you see young Argentinians also do a lot of steps, a lot, too much, that it's walking and not walking like you walk in the park, but there are different types of walking. You have deslizar or morder el piso. You can walk like canjengue. You can walk with pauses. You can walk off beat, slower, accelerated. You have so many types of walking. And so even in walking, it's not a step, it's not a figure. Even in walking, you have different dynamics where you can use that in dancing a tango. You can even dance the whole tanda just walking, just emphasizing the walk differently at a music piece, which is gives you the possibility to do a different dynamic. And I've seen that when they see a milonguero standing, and you hear another milonguero standing, sitting by, say, mira, mira, mira ese tipo, como se para. It's saying, look at it, this guy, this dude standing, and just standing like an ox, very heavy, not heavy on the partner, but like a statue, and with this gaze in a horizon, or gaze in a different place in the milonga, and then starting to dance like a puma, like a tiger walking. That's very nice to see, and I try always to do that in the dance. And it's still a journey I have to go by and to do, because it's the automatic pilot tends you to do steps, but you have to go totally in your zen and in your mindfulness in your dancing. Be mindful in moving, in body coordination, body awareness. That's very special to do, and it's very it's not a trick, it's you have to feel it too. A trick is something you do from outside, but it's inside. That's very important. Yes. Yeah. And we when we went, every time we visited the Pugliese Orchestra, they invited us to be with the performance they did, and we met a lot of musicians, and also young musicians. And I was also startled by that, because not only in the dance, it became like a little bit more and more and more that younger dancers came, but also in the music scene came more and more young musicians. And I know a lot of young musicians from my age and even younger, who are completely crazy about tango, completely obsessed, and this the whole life is spinning around tango. Yes. And of course, many old maestros, old milongueros came to teach in the Netherlands, and they were amazed that there are so many they say foreigners wanted to dance tango. They went to Germany, they went to Italy, and France and Belgium. Italy came a little bit later with the tango revival, and Spain is also coming a little bit later, but the first tango revival was the Belgium, Netherlands, and Germany. And also England came a little bit later, UK. So yeah. And what I mostly regard as a very special moment is when Pepito Avellaneda, the king of the milonga, there are still YouTube videos of him, sat down to me, next to me, and took me also to Milongas, Club Almagro, and sat down and talked to me how I had to dance, how I had to feel the dance, to not do fancy steps, to feel the lady, and do the cabeceo and mirada. I was very shy to do the mirada and cabeceo. I can do it now, but it costed me a very long time to do that. And it's very special to do that. Just wait until the cortina is over. You already did the mirada, but not yet the cabeceo. Cortina's over. Click, and you're gone. And then you walk towards the lady, do it again, that is sure that she wanted to dance with you, and then you dance with her. Don't ask her nothing. And Pepito also learned me that when you dance with a girl or a lady, never talk about politics, football, or religion. Because you understand, in the milonga you have different types of people. You have people who are very religious, or are a communist, or is a police officer, and they mix to each other. They know from each other. Like my father said, look that man, look that man. es una cana. And canas mean a cup. It's a cup. Because he's standing straight. And later on, we learned, yeah, not even a cup. He was an officer, military. And then look at that. That's a pickpocket, or it's a that scene. That stuff. That was a little bit. You already it was vanishing in the 80s, 90s, but people got older. But you could see it. And Viru Lasso was like a big dancer like this, very fat. But he made pauses incredible. Pauses, and only dancing slow and slow. It was his style. And nobody said, you have to do more steps. And he even performed in Broadway in the show Tango Argentino. And Nureyev came to him. Nureyev was a very famous ballet dancer. Came to him in the behind the scene in the changing rooms. And he said to Viru Lasso, with your age, you are so agile, very how you say it, very agile, very
flexible, fast, something like that.
Yeah, fast, but not fast. Lenig, it's called in Dutch. Flexible, dancing, and you dance so nice in the music. You said, pibe, gracias, pibe. He didn't know that was Nureyev. Nureyev was a big star. So, gracias, pibe. And he had a big cigar. So those things, that's a very nice, beautiful anecdotes, because we may not forget that the milongueros, the dancers, would dance every night, of almost every night in the milongas. Most of them, they didn't read music sheets. They just heard the music and danced how they felt it. Some of them were very bad at writing and reading. My father wrote always the love letters for Antonio Todaro when he was in Europe. He wrote his love letters, and then Todaro signed it. And then he read it and said, whoa, where did you get those fancy words? But my father, a romantic guy, he grew up with Leon Gieco and Silvio Rodriguez, the Cuban singer, and knows also rancheras and stuff like that, and boleros. He could remember words of lyrics of love songs, and then he wrote the love letters for Antonio Todaro. But imagine that those people, they invented a dance which is very complex, because the follower of the lady doesn't mirror your steps. In many couple dances, the lady mirror your steps a little bit, but tango, no, it's a completely different dance for the lady than for a leader. So when you lead an ocho, you yourself are not doing an ocho. You just lead it for her. So that those people with very humble background could invent a so complex dance. I think it's the most difficult couple dance in the world, because improvised. Other couple dance are a choreography, even ballroom tango, but tango. And then every milonguero has his own style. There is no common style. So it was very special for them. And well, you had very good dancers like Antonio Todaro, teachers. And Antonio Todaro was a little bit autistic, I think, because he was he never said a word. He was like silenced. And then he wanted always in the morning a baguette. So I went with it when I was small, in shorts, to the bakery to buy some baguettes, always bread. And he wanted to have that my mother made always Italian dishes for him. Pasta, gnocchis, every pizza. And then he ate bread with this, always white bread. And of course wine, and always at the same time. he never went with public transport from our house to the dance school in Amsterdam. He just walked. And I said, is it not far? I said, well, in Buenos Aires, you can walk cuadras y cuadras, you walk. So he found it normal to do that. And when he came home, sometimes my parents were already teaching in Groningen or in Maastricht or somewhere else or in Belgium. We stayed with this older man. He was a maestro. He was a big shot in Buenos Aires. And then he came home, and I was small. I was always looking at television. And he said, do you have some Western? Because he liked Western movies. He liked Clint Eastwood. He was totally fond of Clint Eastwood movies. So we looked always Western together. It was like a grandfather for us, because I didn't have my grandfather in the Netherlands, because he was living first in France, but because when my parents and me were banished from Argentina, military were hunting down my rest of my family, so they came also to Europe. So, but they came to France. So I didn't have my grandfather, but I had another grandfather. It was Antonio Todaro. And later Pepito with Gilda Suzuki, because Pepito was married with a Brazilian dancer. And you can see it in this dance. When you see Pepito dance milonga, they have like many funny samba steps. It's very, very funny to see. That's why he's called King of the Milonga. Very beautiful time. I can talk a lot more, but
I think we should schedule a second interview, because there's so many of these historical things to register in a way to so what I learned as a historian, as a at university, this is like called oral history, and it's a way of recording history through conversations, and you have a lot of very interesting it's almost like archive material, but it's in your head, it's in your life. And I think we should meet another time and just continue the conversation. But for now, I think this is way past the time, actually, but it's been very interesting. And I hope to see you again. And I'm sure a lot of people really enjoy these type of stories.
Yes, I hope to see you once in real life.
Yes, because we've never met. Well, I've actually seen you once, but you didn't know me back then. So, but it's true, we barely know each other, and it would be very interesting to get to know each other better. So, to be continued, definitely.
Yeah, cool. Yes.
And
I'm very honored to have been a guest in your talk show.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah. That's actually a good title by now. Yeah. So thanks, and see you another time.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.